You're back with Colourplane. This is Jesse and Jack. We just had an incredible chat with the freelance photographer, Karabo. She has an extensive resume. She's worked with brands such as Nike, Champion, and FOOTLOCKER. I personally really enjoyed this chat. Jack, how did you find it?
It was an amazing chat, Jess. We went deep into her life as a freelancer, how she juggles her time, how she values her time, and how to price your work. We also went into being a female in a male-dominated industry. There was some really interesting insights in this chat with Karabo, and we think you guys are really going to enjoy it. You're a big sneaker fan, aren't you, Karabo?
Huge.
Yeah.
Massive.
Yeah.
We work at a sneaker store. What do you just wear? You're a big Jordan girl, by the looks of it?
Yeah, I mean, Jordan through and through. That's also, interestingly enough, for health reasons as well.
Health reasons.
Health reasons.
What are we talking?
Oh.
So I can actually justify my collection and my obsession. But I mean, my following, I guess, sort of already knows this, but I was actually born with a defect, like a deformity with my foot. So I was born with half a foot.
Wow. Wow.
And so basically just like my whole anatomy sort of like messed up. It's like one side's a bit like shorter than the other because of all the ligaments and stuff. So I went to go see, is it like an orthopedic doctor or whatever?
Yeah,
that sounds right.
Yeah.
And I happened to be wearing like a pair of Jordan 4s. And then so I went, he was like checking my feet and everything. And he was basically telling me that those types of shoes, like especially the Jordan 4s, are actually perfect for my feet because they provide stability and stuff like that. So, yeah.
That's crazy. Perfect. Sure that guy didn't work at Jordan, like the chief marketing officer there. No.
You know, you never know. But yeah, no, huge sneaker person because, again, that's the only type of shoe I can wear. Like I can't wear heels. I can't wear like sandals and stuff. So
Wow.
I've obviously had to become really creative in how I put together outfits and stuff like that. So that's where the love of shoes
Makes a lot of sense. I mean,
comes
we
from.
always see you rocking Jordans everywhere you go. So there you go, everyone.
Thought, yeah, I've been following you forever. I just didn't know. I
Yeah.
just didn't know, but hey, that's health reasons and looking fire all the time. That's a win.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your social media. You post some really quality content on there. You're quite funny. Tell us like what are your, what's the vibes there?
Well, in terms of like the humor and stuff like that, I just don't like to take myself seriously. And I just like to have a laugh and I like to make people laugh. And honestly, I'm really lame. Like I really enjoy lame humor. So sometimes I'll be thinking of stuff and it takes me so long to post because I'm too busy laughing before I hit the post button, like crying from tears. So really, I just post stuff that makes me laugh, and I just hope that, you know, everyone else enjoys it.
I love it.
Yeah, and then in terms of all the other stuff that you see, yeah, I guess I just like, I don't know, I just like posting nice stuff and cool stuff, you know. It's kind of like, nowadays, it's just I kind of just post without much thought. I'm just like, you know.
Yeah. Did it take time to get to that point where you don't care?
It did. In the beginning, it was very, I think I started like trying to make like a curated feed in high school. And that was like the time of like Kylie Jenner when she was doing like the King Kylie stuff and like all that bullshit. And then when I started getting more into photography, again to just making it look nice and curated and like posting all my work, and then sort of like the influencing stuff sort of followed on naturally. And then through that I was just like, I can't be bothered, it's taking up too much time trying to plan how this is going to look. So then I just started
Caution to the wind. What's your relationship with the word influencer?
Influencer? That's a very good question. I don't know. Like, I don't necessarily like to call myself that because in my head, influencer just has a little bit of like a negative connotation. Just because the influencers that I see, they just don't seem to be really, like, whatever they're promoting, it doesn't seem to like add value to my life. And they look a certain way and like act a certain way and just do certain things. And I'm just like, yeah, I don't know. That's like not me. But then again, to some extent, like, I guess I am an influencer because, you know, I have people reaching out and be like, hey, I thought this was really cool and this affected me in some way and stuff. So yeah, I'm trying to shift my focus and try and make it into a positive thing.
Love that. That's dope.
As long as I can make a difference in people's lives.
Oh, I'm inspired.
Awesome.
I guess.
Very wholesome. I think that's what it's all about, right? I think for me and Jesse's probably done more of this than I have, but just put yourself out there more on social media. And I think you know, me and Jesse have spoken about it a lot in terms of personal content and just how hard you go with it. And it is that fine line of like, are you still staying true to yourself if you're posting so much? And
yeah.
I think what it comes back to is if you do get that positive interaction or that message from that kid who is inspired by you to do X, Y, and Z, then it really doesn't matter. Like, all of it is worth it
100%.
in the end. So,
100%.
yeah.
Oh, yeah. Jackie hit the nail on the head with that. Yeah, I think we can relate on that. And, you know, you touched on a few DMs that come through and you go, shit, if I'm having that effect on someone that I've never met, you know, like I don't even have that effect on my best friends, let alone this, you know, probably young person reaching out. Like,
literally,
it's very sort of motivating and you want to repeat that action. But then there's ugly sides to it as well, isn't there?
100%. I mean, yeah, like you just get, you know, the random like creepy messages and stuff, or, you know, in my case, sometimes undertones of like racism or ignorance and things like that. So yeah, it's just a thing you kind of just have to navigate and just block out, you know.
100%. We'll definitely touch on a lot of those things. I think to start, obviously photography is what you do, is your passion, your love. How did that all start for you?
So photography started for me in a little bit of a roundabout way. So growing up, I had always been, you know, a creative soul, a creative mind. And then in high school, I had this dream of working in advertising. And it's going to sound weird, but I always wanted to make adverts for airline commercials.
It's very niche.
So like every week without fail, you know, I'd come home from school and stuff and I'd probably do like a half an hour session on YouTube just watching airline commercials, and that continued on. I sound crazy. That continued on for a while. And just to note, if you want to watch a really great airline commercial, there's this commercial that Etihad did, and it's called "The World Is Your Home" or something like that. So watch it after this.
We'll put that in the notes, for sure.
So, is your YouTube homepage still full of recommended airline videos?
No comment. No comment. But yeah, so, and honestly, that video, I feel like is a testament of like where I am today. That's how much it changed my life.
Wow.
As crazy as it sounds. So yeah, that's how I sort of got into like the videography and photography. And then in high school, I did like all of the art subjects and stuff like that. And then, yeah, and then I kind of just, yeah, like it was like it started with videos, shooting like little adverts, little commercials and stuff. And then I just started taking photos and realized like I'm better at that and I enjoy it more. And then, so yeah, that's how it started. And then I also just started going out to a lot of events, like when I turned 18, obviously.
Of course.
When I turned 18, obviously, I don't know, something clicked. I realized that I needed to be networking with people. And that's something I realized not a lot of people around me got or realized. So yeah, I'd just go out to like all these parties and stuff, like Tresillo and whatnot back in the day, like in the early days, and all these like events. And that's how I started meeting all these like creatives and whatnot. And yeah, so that's how it came about. Long story short-ish.
Wow.
And so what kind of brands have you worked with over that journey?
Up until now?
Yeah.
Oh, well,
Most notable ones, maybe.
most notable ones. Well, I had the absolute honor of being in a FOOTLOCKER campaign earlier this year for International Women's Day, and that came about through a very good friend of mine, Beza. So shout out Beza.
Shout out.
So yeah, that was a really life-changing and full circle moment for me because I actually used to work at FOOTLOCKER, like as a salesperson.
That's right.
So I was there for a few years, and I remember, you know, on some shifts it'd be quiet and I was watching like the screens and I'm like, I'm going to be on that screen one day. And then lo and behold, it happened.
Wow.
So,
Just on that, do you visualize other goals in your life? Like, is that a common theme for you?
yeah. Like now that I've done that, I see myself doing more of that and venturing out from photography and just really like, you know, just exploring what I can do and like where I can go. I don't really want to set any limits on myself. So yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Incredible. So
Great mindset to have.
incredible mindset to have. So FOOTLOCKER, you're working at Winder at the moment, is that right?
Sorry.
Is that how I pronounce it?
Oh, Wanderer.
Wanderer. Having done my homework.
No, Wanderer. Yeah. So a really good friend of mine, Steve Kirby, owns this brand. So yeah, I've hopped on board with them, just, you know, working on socials and stuff like that and seeing what kind of cool shit we can come up with. Also working at Brother Wolf, which is a really great barbershop in Paran and a few other different locations, but those guys are G's.
Shout out Patty.
Shout out Patty. Shout out Patty. And then yeah, just like working with like Nike, which has been really cool. And I guess the main one that's really shaped this whole photography thing and what I'm doing is obviously Summer Jam.
Summer Jam.
Summer Jam.
How many years have you shot Summer Jam?
I think since about like 2018 or 2019. So it's been a few years.
Was there like a moment or a first big break that kind of got your foot into the door in terms of working with these big brands?
Honestly, it's Summer Jam. Everything goes back to that. And I always tell people and everything, and I tell Eamon and Daniel this pretty much every time I see them. So for those of you guys who don't know, Eamon and Daniel, they run Summer Jam. It's their baby. But yeah, Summer Jam was really the thing that sort of catapulted me and put me on the map, quote unquote, per se.
And for those that don't know Summer Jam, and what, like Australia's biggest basketball,
yeah, pretty much like I think
competition.
Yeah, pretty much. Like
Street ball.
so all
Street
those
ball,
all those street ball competitions you see in like New York and Paris, this is essentially the Australian version. So yeah, my work through that and it's like the thing is like doing Summer Jam, I had never thought all this stuff would happen. Like I was just going and I'm like, this is so cool. This is so cool to capture. And, you know, thankfully enough out of that, people fucked with my work and were like, hey, let's give her a chance, you know?
So dope.
Yeah.
I feel like for me personally, like Summer Jam, the environment there and what they've built is unlike anything else in Melbourne. What do you think about that?
Oh, 100%. Like there is nothing like it in Melbourne and dare I say even Australia. I mean, what these boys have been able to curate and cultivate is just like, it just boggles my mind. And you have different people from like all walks of life, you know, coming together for now like 3 days and just enjoying street ball. And there's no egos, there's no like, you know, drama. It's literally just fun.
Yeah, and that definitely starts at the top, I think, in terms of Eamon and Dan, just the type of people they are. and how they run that ship. It's I think it's a real credit to them, what like the culture they've built, and obviously for freelancers like yourself, it's become a real hub of, you know, in terms of somewhere where people actually really want to work. And I'm assuming a lot of people are just doing it pro bono just for the exposure. I'd love to know, what did that first gig at Summer Jam look like for you? Was that, hey, Eamon, I'll come and take photos, and you know, I'm not going to pay you, Karabo, but at least, you know, you've got all this exposure and we can see what comes of it?
Yeah, so like I met Eamon through Brother Wolf. So Eamon's a barber there, and I'd been getting my hair cut there for a little while, and then he was telling me about this Summer Jam thing, and I'm like, sounds so cool. So then, yeah, it was literally just that, like, you know, just go take photos and stuff like that, and that's all it was at that time. And also at this time, Summer Jam, I think it was just one day. So I'd literally just go take photos, and then it's just snowballed into this thing where, you know, I've become like a part of the team now, and I'm like working with them to put on this like great event. So it's just been like, yeah, it's been insane.
It's amazing to hear like how positive the work environment is at a Summer Jam. You've worked at so many different companies freelancing. Have you had, you know, work environments that you sort of look back on and just go, shit? Has there been many experiences like that?
Thankfully, no. I mean, there is one where I was working at a fashion agency, and without like going into like too much detail, it was like the first time I had really realized my skin color before. Like it was such a, I don't want to say like alienating, but it was just such a weird experience, because I'm not, obviously I know like I'm, you know, I'm black and stuff, but this was like, you're black. Right. You're black and these people are not. And you know, like even just for a bit of an anecdote, like I remember going into the break room once or something, and like just one of the girls was just like, she would just look at me funny and just like look at me weirdly, and I'm just like, what did I do? Like, what did I do? So I think definitely in that like PR space and stuff like that, it's just very like, you know, yeah, there's just a different whole vibe going there, and there's just not a lot of not a lot of people who look like me working in those spaces. But other than that, I'm really grateful and thankful to say that all the places that I've worked at have been like really amazing.
That's awesome. What do you think makes a cult like those environments? Is there a few things that they have in common that you think makes it a good environment to work in? I know obviously as a freelancer, you have to be on your toes, always coming and going, new people, new environments, and it must be pretty crazy. So you would have seen a lot of different things. I'd like to know if there's like a common, a few common traits of like what makes a really good environment for a freelancer to come into.
Honestly, I think not having tunnel vision, you know, just realizing that there is a world out there, and also understanding how that world works. I mean, there's like so many different people of different cultures and different walks of life. So just being really understanding to everyone's differences, I think that's the main thing. And that's like one thing I've definitely experienced, which has been great. And yeah, just like not being a dickhead. Like honestly, like that's pretty much it. Just
what about from a work side of things, like in terms of how organized the business or brand is before you get there on the day, how much direction they give you?
Yeah, really, like just, yeah, again, like you said, like just being briefed on things. Like I feel like a brief beforehand is incredibly important, a detailed brief. Again, like everyone just understanding that there's like, you know, got to stick on time, got to be on time, which never happens ever. Treating each other with respect, like on the day, on set, you know, everyone's here to work and stuff, and no one is better than the other person and stuff like that. So yeah, that's pretty much, yeah, off the top of my head, that's all I can think of.
What's the ideal work balance for you? You know, obviously being a freelancer comes with some difficulty. How would you love to balance your work life?
Oh, like at the moment, there's virtually no, there's virtually no there's no balance at all. Like and I know this is something I need to work on, especially next year, because I've been feeling so burnt out lately. In an ideal world, I would like to keep like at least 1 or 2 days free during the week, because like at the moment I work 3 days like in an actual like day job type of thing, and then the rest of the days like I freelance, and it's pretty much like go.
Oh.
And like one thing I can say is that if you don't have that balance, like honestly, like I understand it's all about hustle culture and blah, 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 blah. But if you don't rest and just shut down, like your body will shut down for you.
Facts.
And it's like, it's not a nice feeling. It's not a nice feeling. So yeah, that's very crucial.
Have you had some pretty big burnouts in your time?
Oh, I'm still recovering from one like last week. Like I think I finished about like an 8 or 9 day stint like in a row. And then I had a shoot on Sunday and I was literally like dying. Like I was the most miserable I had ever been, and like no one could talk to me because I was just like, I can't do this. But then I managed to like push through, and then the shoot went great. And then I think for like 3 days I was just in bed,
Just out of it.
curtains closed, pillow over my head, blocking out the light. Like it was so bad.
Yeah. It's so important, especially for creatives where you rely so much on
100%.
you're on the feet thinking to, you know, take a shot or change things around.
100%. Well, I have to ask for you guys, because obviously you've started Color Plane this year, like starting a new business. Have you had that work-life balance, or how have you managed that?
Jack, you might be better off talking about this because he's a very measured man. But for us, you know, we live together, which makes things pretty funky in terms of a lot of conversations from the moment we wake to the moment we sleep. But I think, you know, relatively speaking, you know, we love running. That's a really big thing for us. So we get out and run maybe 4 or 5 times a week and clear our heads. And that doesn't mean there's not a few business chats on the run here and there. You know, what are we posting tonight?
Definitely sneak in there every now and then.
They do, but yeah, how would you think we go, Jack?
I think we go pretty well. As you said, like we're just kind of getting started. So definitely the last month has been like I've felt it a lot more. Like not so much stress, just like there's just a lot more going on. And it's been harder to juggle everything. Like we're almost like to the minute, like always stuff on back to back, like everything's accounted for. So yeah, I think it's just going to be a work in progress. Something that's always a work in progress, which I think is, to Jesse's point, in terms of finding outlets that are able to clear your mind, whether that's a 3-day stint in bed with a pillow over your face or it's a run in the morning.
Yeah.
I think those are really important.
How do you go about organizing your time? You know, is that something you feel like you need to improve on?
Look, so what had happened was, and then I'm joking. I'm so bad at like organizing my time. And even if I mean well and I try, it just sometimes never seems to go right. Like now it's like definitely the use of a calendar, definitely Google, iCal, like I use both. And then like just I have like a whiteboard in my room and I just like write down stuff like that I have on for the week, like okay, this stuff has to be done. And then like I'll get like a different colored marker, and then like, okay, this is maybe stuff I can like cancel or like shift around on, or it's not as a priority. But yeah, definitely like as a freelancer, like your time is just like very precious. And so you have to, you know, be really good at like organizing. And again, too, that plays into the work-life balance thing and taking care of yourself and stuff like that. So yeah, like I said, it's just something I need to work on because I know I'm like terrible at the moment.
Do you struggle to say no to opportunities and people?
Definitely.
So that's like a double-edged sword, especially as a freelancer, because you have to be a yes man a lot of the time, but then
or woman,
yeah, as the saying goes. But yeah, that'd be a tough. I suppose early days, it's like you probably have to take a few more of those opportunities, but once you've got some big shoots under you and
100%.
you've got some leverage, just step back and say,
yeah.
This ties into a good thing I wanted to raise. How do you value your time in terms of price? How have you gone juggling that and just maneuvering that the last 3-4 years?
Oh, it's like so hard. Like, and it's still something that I struggle with today. Like, I think even a few weeks ago, like I was asking one of my other photographer friends, like, oh my gosh, what should I charge for this? Like, how do you measure that? Because yeah, again, in the beginning, you always work for free, you know, because you just want to build up your portfolio. You just want to build up that base. And then when you reach that point where it's like, okay, I can start getting a return on this. I'll put it this way. Like for me, I sometimes suffer from like imposter syndrome type of thing, you know, as a creative, you're like, oh, nah, I'm not that good enough, or it's not good, so I shouldn't charge this much. And then I'll have people being like, oh my gosh, no, like you should be getting way more. But I'm like, it's much easier said than done. So I think my advice would be, you know, just to like at some point just try figure out like a rough guide or pricing plan and like stick to that and see how it goes. And then, you know, once you start, you know, producing more higher quality work, or you just reach a certain point where your time is worth a lot, like just stick to it. Because again, these people and whatnot hitting you up like, hey, can you shoot this? Like they want you. And if they can't pay up, then it's tough luck. There's always going to be another opportunity that comes along.
Facts, yeah. I think valuing your time as a creative, as you've put so well, is the most vital thing. And that doesn't mean people, you know, might not kick up a stink and go, oh, what the hell? But the moment you lower the bar, then you know, how low is that bar going to continue to go?
100%.
Got to hold a standard.
100%. Then again, too, that doesn't mean like charging like extortionate prices and then like,
of course,
you know,
There's a fine line.
Exactly. It's all about balance. But yeah, it's all trial and error. Honestly, just see how you go, see what works, see what doesn't, and yeah.
What would you say? You know, you touched on building up your portfolio, working for free. How important has that been in your journey?
Oh, incredibly important. Like I think I've been like on and off shooting for about like 4 or 5 years now. And pretty much I think it's only up until this year that I've seriously started getting paid for like all my photography stuff. Which I like would never have happened if I didn't take on those jobs in the past for free, just to get exposure, just to get my foot in the door, you know, to have my name said in conversations in rooms that I'm not in. It's such a crucial part. It's an unfortunate part because, you know, you're obviously struggling for those like first, you know, sort of few years or months or like whatever. But, you know, I think it's important to think about the bigger picture and think about, okay, all of this stuff that I'm doing now is going to lead me to be in a certain position in a few years' time, and it'll all be worth it.
For me, listening to that, it sounds like it just comes down to what reasons you're doing it for. And for you, it sounds like you're doing it out of love and passion, hence why you're willing to wait 3-4 years until you actually start seeing a return. But so many people get into things wanting that immediate
100%.
monetary reward, and that's just not the right, it's not the right reason to be going into something. One, and it's not going to last.
Exactly. There's no like foundation there. There's no structure there. And it's funny you say that, because on like the flip side, and again to like just touching back onto that imposter syndrome thing, like in the beginning I was working and like doing all this stuff, and then like even up until this point now, I had struggled with like seeing other creatives and photographers doing all this stuff and getting all these opportunities, and in a sense feel like they're surpassing me, even though I know it's not a competition and stuff like that. But, you know, you still can't help but like look at what other people are doing, and especially when they're younger than you and stuff like that. And so that's something I struggled with, especially with like social media. And I just had to tell myself, look, my time is coming. It's still a waiting game for me too. It's still a process. I'm like, you know what, my time is coming, and, you know, eventually things are going to break through, and I'm going to be doing even cooler stuff than, you know, what I'm doing now. So
Sounds like it already has started to kind of go that way with just some of the brands you're working with at the minute and what you've got coming up. It's extremely exciting. I'd love to go into a little segue now into culture and maybe some trends. Obviously, you're working with a lot of big brands. You're seeing what's coming next. You've got your foot on the pulse, I would say, in terms of what's fashionable and what's hot in Melbourne. I'd love to get your thoughts on maybe what you see coming up in terms of trends and brands.
I honestly don't even think I'm that trendy. I'm just like...
I think that's why you are so trendy. Huh? What do they say? Like the definition of being cool is like not thinking you are cool.
You know, just playing it off, being all blasé.
Yeah, which you did.
You passed that question.
Well, in terms of like footwear and things like that, it's going to be interesting, because I don't know if you guys heard about like how Nike and stuff is sort of pulling back in terms of like, you know, how much product they stock at like stores like FOOTLOCKER and stuff like that. So it's going to be a little bit harder to access, I guess, those types of shoes. So I think, you know, that'll give a chance for like other brands to sort of come up. So I think like next year's probably like going to be a big year for New Balance, I'd say, like more like runner type shoes, like with what you're wearing now.
Lovely.
They're so sick, by the way.
Appreciate it.
So I think like more like runner type shoes are going to be like a bit more trendy. I think definitely like more like basics, wearing like basics, more plain clothing, neutrals.
That's what we like to hear.
Like to hear that.
I mean, it's going to be perfect for you guys. I mean,
You tell them.
Didn't pay Karabo to say that.
Yeah, checks in the mail.
so yeah, honestly, I could not tell you.
So you work at Finesse, the sneaker store. It's like predominantly a women's base, but they're sort of neutral as well.
Yeah.
Neutral. I got a question, because sort of traveling back and forth from America a little bit, you know, Jordan's been big in America forever, right? Since the 80s. But just here in Australia, like if we're being honest with ourselves, they've only really kicked off here like 2-3 years ago, kind of middle of COVID, probably the Netflix documentary, I would have thought, boosted it up. You know, I'm seeing 12-year-old girls at Chadstone in like Jordan 1s, and like I'd love to hear your thoughts, because, you know, you work in the industry. How has that shifted so drastically in your opinion?
Oh, yeah, like just social media, honestly, like with everything, social media has the power to change any landscape like drastically. Like if I compare it to when I was working at FOOTLOCKER a few years ago, like not many people were wearing like dunks and stuff like that. Even like Jordan 1s, it was pretty much like sneakerheads who like knew what they were talking about and like they were buying these types of shoes. And then, yeah, again too with that thing of like The Last Dance coming out, just went like gangbusters and everyone's like, Jordan 1s.
Streetwear's definitely
like
become mainstream.
100%.
I think.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. It's almost, I used to love sneakers. I still sort of do, but, went from having 5 pairs of Jordans, all that type of stuff, a bunch of Prestos, whatever. And then I just fell out of love with it. I think when I saw it get so saturated and I felt like Nike were releasing so often, re-releasing everything, doing, a pair of Travis's, then the next month they're doing like a knockoff version of those. And I was like, I can't deal with this, And then the reselling market, I think everyone can relate.
That's flipped it on its head too.
100%.
Yeah.
Like the love of it's like not there anymore.
It's not there anymore. Yeah, it's almost sort of become like a bit of like a fad too. Yeah, I think it's just like a whole range of like just influences and stuff. But yeah, I think definitely what you said, like the reselling market and also to the oversaturation with Nike literally just releasing so many of the one thing. It's like,
yeah,
where's your point of differentiation at that point?
Kind of makes sense. To your point, while they might be scaling back a little bit, trying to reel it in.
Yeah.
Save some face.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Finishing question for you, Karabo. I'd love to know what advice you would give to the young female creatives in Melbourne, more particularly, in terms of, following their dreams and making amazing careers out of being a creative. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that and maybe a few tips and tricks.
I think the first thing, as cliche as it's going to sound, is just to go for it, like, and force your way into these spaces. Because, like the creative industry, and especially like photography, is very male dominated here in Melbourne. So, just stay true to yourself and just keep, taking photos and like it will all come. I think for me, it's just been a thing of like just keeping pushing on and having faith again, believing that things will happen, your time will come, just keep pushing and like don't let people try to talk you out of like doing what you want or like following your passions. I think that's like the main thing. Like, oh no, because you're a woman or you won't fit in or blah blah blah. It's like, no, like that's not cool. It's not good enough. So yeah, you just keep pushing on, keep hustling, and yeah, also just look damn good doing it as well too. Yeah, that's like pretty much what I can say.
Amazing advice. We appreciate you so much coming here, and this has been such a great chat. And I think for the young ones coming through, everything you just said, thinking long, these are such timeless things and great things to remind ourselves with. So Karabo, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. Oh my gosh, it was so exciting. Thanks, guys.